At least on your channel on lives, this is at least the third time, maybe the fourth time.
Okay. Yeah. Well, good to have you back with your latest project, Gallows Man issue number 3.
Yeah,
We
yeah.
already have the link pinned in the chat, and it's down in the description. So if anybody wants, please definitely go check it out. But so why don't you? I guess we'll start with maybe tell us a little bit about the issue and the story.
Yeah, so if no one knows about the Gallows Man, the Gallows Man itself is Adam West Batman meets Inglourious Basterds. The reason I mentioned that is it's fun campiness of Adam West Batman, the G. Willikers Gallows Man, and it's campy dialogue and campy jokes and stuff like that. But it has like some Tarantino level violence in it, kind of some over the top cartoonish violence that appears within it. In issue 3, for those that have followed along with the series, issue 3 picks up. If you've read issue 2, something big happens at the end of issue 2. Issue 3 picks up like basically 20 seconds at the end of issue 2. Something happens with the Gallows Man. He is in a bad guy's lair, sort of thing. And said bad guy, Major Swastika, is doing the classic villain spiel. It's like, I have you tied up, I have you locked up. Let me tell you my plan as a bad guy, sort of thing. And it spins from there. And like that's just the first tiny bit of issue 3. Issue 3 is, in terms of story, 57 pages long. The comic itself is 60 plus pages, so it's like
Wow.
it's a mini graphic novel, just that one issue.
And does issue 3 wrap up the kind of like story arc?
Issue 3 is the penultimate issue. So issue 3, you have this issue, and then issue 4, we're working on that. When that comes out, that'll be the end of the mini series, because it'll be a 4-issue mini series.
Okay, gotcha. And now, do you have plans? Because I know, both issue 1 and 2 are, right, 50 plus pages. They're pretty long.
Yeah.
So, do you plan when issue 4 is complete to, put it together as like as a trade, or a full story?
Yeah, shortly after, or not shortly after, but after issue 4, eventually I do want to make it into a trade, and possibly make it like a deluxe sort of trade where it's hardback, including at the end a whole bunch of concept art, samples of scripts, different stuff like that. Like really make it its own thing, sort of thing. But yeah, like planning to finish this series with issue 4. The Gallows Man miniseries might be over at that time. I have one idea for a future miniseries, but I'm not planning to do that for at least another 5 years, sort of thing. But other stuff like Tales from Town City, like the spin-off anthology world of the Gallows Man, I want to come out with at least a couple more issues of that. Some of the characters introduced in those comics, I kind of want to possibly do mini series of them as well. So it all started as just the Gallows Man, no thought of all these other branching things, but it's turned into this thing where I do want to do these branching things. And it's not just like, it's not like people are really liking it and it's getting big or whatever, so I'll cash in and do these branching things. No, like I genuinely want to do these branching stories, because at the end of the day, Gallows Man, especially all these things that fall under, are comedies, and comedy is like my bread and butter. Like, I'm not saying I'm amazing at comedy, but in terms of me writing, it's the thing I feel most comfortable with. It's the thing I love writing most. I love writing any genre, but with comedy, I just love getting it out there.
Yeah, no, and I think, right, when you take the time to create a character and write a character, then you're thinking of, like you said, future ideas where you could potentially do a spin-off, or where you don't want to waste what you've developed already with a character, although
Oh
the
yeah.
story may be finished in that particular story, or in in Gallows Man as like a sub character. But there may be more that you can do with them. So yeah, no, definitely, that was one of the things when, and I need to thank you again for all of your help. You were one of the first resources that I reached out to when I was, working on a script and coming up with my first comic book. You were, super helpful. Providing me. I mean, I asked you a ton of different questions about all different things, and super helpful, and really helped me, kind of springboard my project. So, I definitely wanted to, I know we've talked, and but definitely wanted to thank you again for
Oh
for all
yeah,
your help. So
you're welcome as well, because it's one of those things where I am still a newbie in this comic making landscape. But like what I learn, again, I'm a newbie, but if people are wanting to make a comic and stuff and they like want to reach out, I always want to just provide some sort of information. Again, I've only been publishing for 3 years. I've been writing comics for 5 years, but publishing for three. So not a ton of time, but it was one of those things where like when I first started out, like writing and stuff, before I published my first comic, I reached out to people. I reached out to people like George Medina from Catch the Craze podcast and stuff. I reached out to a bunch of people just like asking them stuff like regarding printers, regarding this, regarding that, like all these little things. And then also like I'm sure you did this as well, like digging in for yourself of like all this information, all this
oh,
like
sure, yeah,
all
yeah.
this stuff like when you start out you don't think about at all, and that's like, oh, like that's a thing I got to think about now. It's crazy.
Well, I mean, this is what, your sixth book now, sixth project.
Yeah.
So I think you can start to call yourself a little bit more than just a newbie. I think after six books.
Well, I think it's and me personally, Gallows Man 1 I think is great. Gallows Man 2 I think is great. Dismay Avenue 1 and 2 I think are great. I think those are great books. The book for like me personally, because us as creators, like you're going to be more critical on your own work compared to anyone else, most
Oh, sure.
likely.
Yeah.
And Tales from Town City last year, this was like the first book where I'm like, okay, if I ever go to a publisher and I'm like basically submitting a resume as well as like past work, this is my go-to of like, hey, this is like what I've done. It's I'm not saying it's a perfect or masterpiece book, but it's I feel great about all my books, but it's the one where I'm like I'm extremely proud of it, and this speaks for me, sort of thing. If I
Gotcha.
go to a publisher,
Yeah. Well, yeah, and I think, right, as you do more projects and more books, your the amount of experience you've gained, and the things you've learned now will be improved, every step of the way, right? And so
oh yeah,
your
each
next book will get better than the last book, right?
exactly each project you do, each comic you do, even if it's in the same series like the Gallows Man, each comic you do, you're getting better. You're getting better. Not only you as a writer, not only you as a writer are you getting better, you're getting better as an editor, because a lot of times we are our own editors. You're getting better as an editor. You're getting better as a collaborator with the artist. The artists are also getting better as well, because they're becoming more and more adjusted to this world that they're a part of. This comic that you're making, the series you're making, you're both getting better and better at it. So yeah, I see that to where like even when I get to like hopefully I get this far. If I get to making my 20th comic or whatever, like I will feel between 19 and 20, between the 19th and 20th comic, I'll feel I've gotten even better. It's just
Right.
constant improvement, sort of thing.
Yeah, no, no, totally agree. Like, already I feel like I'm working on another project now, and my second project is so much better than the first. I didn't think the first was bad, but there are improvements, right? There's things that you learn as you go, and yeah, I was looking at, just looking over. I was trying to figure out in my head how many projects you've already have done, how many books have you published, and so I, went back through Kickstarter and saw that there, you had 6, and that's one of the things too. I spent hours and hours just looking at other projects on Kickstarter.
Oh yeah, yeah.
You just get an idea of, the trailer, what information they were including, what was successful, what wasn't successful. So just really, I mean, because you can just, it's right there, right? You can see, projects that were funded, 3, 4, 500%, and projects that were, 50% funded and didn't reach their goals. So it's kind of, you can just spend hours just digging through, trying to pick up and learn from, what others have done. So.
Oh yeah, and on top of that, it's like it's an ongoing thing. Like just with the Kickstarter page you're talking about, like it's an ongoing thing of like, okay, this is what I did this time, and each Kickstarter you're learning more and more stuff. Like every Kickstarter you're going to make mistakes, and you're learning from those mistakes. But like also when you go to make the next Kickstarter, you're also then looking at the current Kickstarters, because Kickstarter, like it changes, like trends in terms of like tiers and stretch goals and all that.
Right.
How a page is laid out, it changes. Like if you look at it compared to 3 years ago, it's very different. So it's always like keeping up to date with that, the stuff that like most people don't notice, nor should they shouldn't. But as a creative, you have to like keep up with that sort of stuff.
Yeah, and the stretch goals too. Looking at the variety, the different things that people do, it was pretty interesting to see. Going from stickers to T-shirts to just crazy different things, right?
Oh yeah.
But it's just just spending some time going through and seeing what others are doing and what, like I said, what's been successful, for
Oh
them.
yeah.
But let's take a look at the Kickstarter page. So we're 8 days in and you've been fully funded. And I know you hit stretch goal 1 and maybe we're on our way to stretch goal 2.
Yeah, we're stretch goal 2 is 1,750. So we're nearly there, and we're also 3 backers away from our 50 backer giveaway. Every 25 backers, that's a new backer giveaway, and the backer giveaways are sticker and bookmark sets. They're like a bunch of stickers, a bunch of bookmarks. You get that with your order. And at the end of the campaign, I usually put all the physical backers in a random wheel generator to see who gets the backer giveaway sort of stuff. And I usually post that on social media for people to see and all that. But
Gotcha.
yeah, it's crazy to see the progress that it has had so far. Like we were talking backstage before the show, like I did not expect us to hit our funding goal so soon. We hit 750 within 40 hours, which is amazing. And then like we're now at 1,400. Like we hit the first stretch goal, 1,250. We hit that within 6 days of the campaign. It's incredible to see the support within the community, as well as like people out of the community. There are people that like I've met at conventions, not even comic conventions, that like have followed along since I've met them like last year or earlier this year, and they back the project. They're not even like big comic people, but like they kind of got into comics through my comic. It's very weird to see, but it's awesome.
Right. Yeah, no, and one of the things I think too, and I think I've talked to you about this before, is that your goal. So your original goal was 750 to fund the project, is fairly low right now. Having the
Yeah, yeah.
experience of doing my own book, I know how expensive just printing can be very expensive. You can spend depending on the artist, you can go relatively inexpensive, with 35, 45, $50 a page,
Right,
upwards
right.
of several $100s per page. So, and this is what a 50 Gallows Man 3 is how many pages?
57 pages of just story. Like
Right.
that's not
So
including
57 pages,
backup
right?
stuff.
So
Yeah, yeah.
yeah, even at $50 a page, that's a tremendous cost to
Oh
produce
yeah.
that art. And then printing right now, even printing wise, because the book is is going to be 60 pages, 60 plus pages.
Yeah,
It's double the size of a traditional comic.
Per unit in terms of printing, it's not going to be the same cost as printing a 20-page comic or 32-page comic or even 48-page comic. It is like, the more the pages stack up, the more it costs per unit. And make it even with, if I buy hundreds, I've never bought like thousands of a comic in ordering, but if I buy hundreds, even with like bulk deals, it's still pricey because it isn't Tales from Town City. Tales from Town City was 32-page comic, and I was like, oh, okay, like this is good, but this is like bigger, so you see that unit cost stack up. But it's one of those things where I usually set my funding goals pretty low because, one, I've been doing it a while to where I know whatever my funding goal is, I'll usually double it. Like I know by the end of the campaign, sort of thing, like within 30 days. Like this one, for example, I figured by the end of the campaign we would hit 1,500. Now we're like surpassing that now. When I first did the campaign, I like didn't expect within the first week we're at 1,400, sort of thing.
Right.
Never expected that. But I set it at 750 for a few reasons. One, there are people that like my stuff that continue to follow along, want to get the next issue, sort of thing. And I don't want even though it's a very tiny chance, I don't want the small chance of we don't hit the funding goal, so now you got to wait a few months till I do another Kickstarter for you to get it.
Right.
It's we hit the funding goal, and once we hit the funding goal, it is confirmed. It's like, okay, you're going to get the book. And what also helps with me having done all these other successful Kickstarters before and sending them out, like it's a guarantee to people where it's like, hey, like we hit our funding goal. You've seen me do all these other campaigns and people have backed it and got their books. So where it's like, you're guaranteed to get your book. There's no, will I, won't I, will there be a 1 year delay or yeah. So it's one of those things where it's that, as well as I've noticed, I don't recommend everyone do this, but people, when they see the green bar, when they see the fully funded thing, they are more, they feel more welcomed to backing it because they know, okay, it did hit its goal. It will be printed, sort of thing. Even though like Kickstarter, how it works is if it doesn't hit the goal, you don't get charged your money, nothing like that. So it is no risk if it doesn't hit the goal, sort of thing.
Right.
But people like when they see that it's fully funded or almost funded, it psychologically makes them feel more okay backing it, sort of thing. That's just what I've seen.
Right. And I think too, right, I think there's some, if you hit the goal quickly, like you did within 40 hours, there's more potential that because it's hit its goal, that the algorithm within Kickstarter can pick it up, or maybe it gets I forget, is it Projects We Love?
Yeah.
Right. So
Projects We Love is the weirdest thing ever. As well as the algorithm for Kickstarter. The algorithm for Kickstarter is weirder than the YouTube algorithm, because you can game the YouTube algorithm a little bit. People have done it. The Kickstarter algorithm is just so weird. It's like a crapshoot, sort of thing. And Projects We Love, like I can talk to you about that later. I do like Projects We Love, but it's actually easier than you think to get Projects We Love.
Okay. Yeah, I know. I tried to do a little research on it, just to kind of try to understand it. But it seemed like that, at least in my mind, projects that hit their funding goal very quickly, within like the first 24 hours or 48 hours, had a better chance of being, highlighted within Kickstarter than, projects that were still not fully funded yet. So.
Oh yeah. Like that's a big part of it.
But I do have the trailer that we can play if we want to do that. loaded. I know you sent me the trailer, so I wanted to instead of trying to play it right off the Kickstarter page, I have it loaded. So we'll go because it's well done. So
Thank you.
let's give everybody a look.
Back and better than ever, it's the Gallows Man. Witness action, humor, grotesque violence, and everything in between as the Gallows Man and his team try to stop the Nazi threat that has infiltrated their city. My producers are saying it's Adam West Batman meets Inglourious Basterds. Whatever the hell that means. Well, what are you waiting for? Help support this series by backing the Gallows Man numbers 1 through 3 over on Kickstarter today. There, I did the ad. Will you let me go now? Okay, I'll say the stupid stuff. Baby, get back. Have you ever seen a dead body? No cap, these chicken nuggies be bussin', gang. Would you like to see a dead body? Morpheus, Dorpheus, Orpheus, go eat some walruses. Someone's getting a visit from the BB monster. There, I said it all. When will you let me go?
And I also recommend for anyone, if that's like the first time seeing one of my trailers, this is the fourth time I've worked with that voice actor, the 1940s radio announcer guy. You can go to my YouTube channel. It's probably the easiest way to find them. But check out the Gallows Man 1 trailer, Gallows Man 1 and 2 trailer, Tales from Town City #1 trailer, because they are like this, where the first half is usually the comic ad sort of thing, like the Kickstarter ad. And then the last half, I always have Mr. Corley. He's the guy that does the voiceover. I always have him say very stupid stuff at the end.
Random thing.
And he's willing to do it. Like I always make sure he's okay with it. But it started from like me and my buddy sitting and like, what would you like a 1940s radio announcer to say? Like, what's some dumb random stuff? And we've in those trailers we've had him say like, me meow, moo meow, I am a cow, and like pee pee poo poo, and like just very stupid stuff. But
random.
It's fun.
Well, and I think that's the other thing too that people maybe don't understand from a Kickstarter perspective. There's cost associated with generating that trailer, right?
Yeah,
voiceover person, and whether you have somebody doing the editing, or you do the editing yourself, right? So that's an additional cost. But the trailer is kind of a key component on Kickstarter, so you definitely you definitely want to have a trailer to be able to showcase, the book. And I think it's just we're a lot of us are, video driven these days, right? Between, TikTok and Instagram and shorts and everything else that we watch. So it's definitely a good way to highlight the project, but there is that cost. I mean, I was looking into having somebody work on a trailer for me, and it can be, hundreds of dollars, to have somebody produce a minute long trailer for you.
Oh yeah. So, yeah. I usually go through Fiverr, except the last trailer. I will say the Tales from Town City #1 trailer, I think, is the best trailer I've done so far. A big part of that was Manny from Nerdtastic News, used to be Tomorrow Cinema. He edited the trailer and he did amazing job. I like the editor of this trailer and Gallows Man 1 and 2 trailer, but like Manny's editing was like chef's kiss. Like he did an amazing job. Yeah, like with this one, like I'm willing to tell people, just because if they ever want to do a Kickstarter or anything like that, this with the voice actor, and you can see this on his Fiverr. This isn't like I'm like giving out his commissions and he's actually expecting more. This is advertised on the Fiverr. It's like I think it's like $15 every it's like $15 for like 150 words, and then every 100 words after that it's like $5 extra sort of thing. And then
Okay.
Fiverr also has like a little convenience fee, or how they make money, like a little fee
Right.
there, to where voice acting I paid, I think like $32, something like that, 33. But that's also another thing, is if you have other stuff, if you're paying $5 extra for the 100 words or whatever, and you only use like 5 of those, you still have like 95 more
Right.
words.
Yeah, you might as well get your
You
money's worth, right?
you might as well get your money's worth. So I got him to read. There's an author I admire, very wild books, called Quan Mills. He has some insane books. Here's just a couple titles for people to get in their head, sort of thing. One is called "This Hoe Got Roaches in Her Crib." Another one is "Old Thought Next Door." These wild books. The guy comedically is very funny. He does great satire, but all of the titles are so weird. So I just hired Mr. Corley those extra words. I was like, hey, could you read like 20 of these titles? And I had them listed, sort of thing. And I
That's funny.
made a dumb little YouTube video on it. So there's that. And then you're also paying for an editor. Editors can range in cost. For editing this, it was less than $40 because the last half was all black, like I had
Right,
that
just
intentional.
voiceover, right? Yeah.
Yeah. So it was less than $40. So where in total, it was over $70, which is a lot, but there's more expensive avenues you can go with it.
Oh, sure. Yeah. I mean, you can spend, hundreds of dollars, right? I mean, it's the same thing, like I said earlier, with the artist, right? You can go relatively inexpensive with, some overseas artists, you can spend, several $100s per page.
Oh yeah.
It really varies, pretty, there's a pretty wide spread of artists and cost.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, no, I think and then you factor in the printing, and then just the time, your own time to manage, the Kickstarter, and then doing all the promotion. It's a lot of work to.
And a part of that, like marketing and promotion, sometimes you might do Facebook, Instagram, or TikTok ads.
Sure.
You might have
Yeah.
a post and promote it, sort of thing. I've seen benefit from both TikTok ads as well as Facebook and Instagram ads. In the past, TikTok used to be the thing where like that is where I truly saw like people going to the project and like a few people backing it, to where it made up for whatever I
Spent.
spent on the ad, sort of thing.
Okay.
TikTok ads have gotten more expensive now, and they don't have as great of a reach. And this time, surprisingly, Facebook and Instagram actually had a bigger reach, and also, uh, like I saw people click and back through those ads. Um, it's almost a crapshoot when it comes to advertising. I don't recommend people put a lot of money into that, whether TikTok, Facebook, Instagram ads, but at least test it out. Test out to see at least the statistics of how your ad is reaching. So it can also help you in forming your thumbnails and the artwork and the words you put in ads and stuff. It helps you become better at advertising your thing.
Right. Who the target audience is, right? Or who it may be reaching, right? Yeah. Yeah. So 6 projects so far. Or do you have kind of a schedule, like a set schedule? Because I'm pretty sure, right? It's usually around this time of year, September, October is when you're launching the Kickstarter. So are you kind of now in kind of a certain, cadence or schedule that you follow?
Basically, what I try to do is at least every year, at least one Kickstarter, at least one comic.
Okay.
That's what I try to stick to. Next year, I have no idea. It's going to be at least 2 Kickstarters,
Okay.
maybe 3 Kickstarters, because I have something going on with CJ Tate and Siren, aka Matt Adkins. We have a project that we've been working on,
Oh,
as well
nice.
as Ben Fraser. Ben Fraser, he's a great artist. We have a project going on that we plan to launch early 2025, sort of thing. And then Dismay Avenue #3, my horror anthology series, like that's kind of for now going to be the last issue of that. And I want to put that out. That doesn't mean I'm like done with horror. It's just under the Dismay Avenue brand. Like that'll be the last issue for now. Because I do also want to do horror stuff, and I want to see if other publishers are interested in some of that stuff. But there's that, and then there's 2 books that I've been making, like 2 new series that I've been making, both comedies, that I have put a lot of time and effort into. That those 2, if it doesn't get picked up by a publisher, at the very least, I'll do a Kickstarter for. But
Okay.
those 2, I'm like heavily going to push for publishers because I believe in all my stuff, but this is the stuff where it's like all of this stuff is like if with any creator, it's like, oh, you got to see this. Those 2
Yeah.
are like, I really want people to see this sort of thing.
Yeah, I mean, if you don't believe in it, you wouldn't be putting in the effort to
Exactly.
make it, right? So
Yeah.
yeah, and
But
that was
it's
one of the things that you had mentioned to me early on too, and that I noticed that you're doing a lot of self-funding, right? You're already before the Kickstarter, you've had the artwork done, so you're laying out the money and not relying on Kickstarter. Kickstarter helps, right? It supplements what you've spent. I mean, that's I think one of the things that if you believe in the project, I think then the project's going to be successful.
oh
Um,
yeah. And it's
I've
one of
seen
those
some
things where
Kickstarters where they were waiting for the funding to be able to then produce the artwork. And so,
yeah.
if the creator himself isn't that confident in it that he won't lay out some of his own money, I don't know how you would expect others to do that then.
Well, especially if you're a newbie into it, even like me, where like I've made 5, 6 books. Thank you, Callie. Yeah, fingers crossed. Like hopefully those 2 get picked up. But even if you're a newbie like me, I've done six books, like 6 floppies now. Um, like you are wanting to show people that like, hey, because you don't have a name attached to you. Like we're not Todd McFarlane sort of thing. We're like, I'm
Right.
not saying Todd McFarlane does this, but with those Spawn action figures that he does on Kickstarter, like he could have literally just showed a line paper, like college rule line paper, and it's just a sketch of Spawn. And it's like, here you go, Spawn action figure, $1 million, let's reach it. He's going to get the fund. I'm not saying
Yeah.
it'll be $1
Yeah.
million, but like $50,000, he'll get funded because he has the name attached to him. People believe in him. They know they'll get the thing. But Todd McFarlane isn't that sort of guy. He is like a true businessman. Whatever people may think of Todd, like when it comes to comics, he's done a lot for comics. He's also an amazing businessman when it comes to comics. So he makes sure like his name, like he doesn't tarnish it, sort of thing. Like
Right. Right.
he
Yeah.
tries to put out the best stuff he can every time, sort of thing. And since we don't have names, we have to make sure it's like finished, or at least like 95% finished before we do like a Kickstarter or whatever. Because like, hey, like I don't have a name, I can't just show you like a sketch of my comic and be like,
Yeah.
here you go, the like $3,000 funding or whatever. It's like, no, it's done. This is for the printing now. This is so you can get it into your hand, sort of thing. And what you had mentioned before, like us, a lot of times putting our own money into hiring artists and making these books. One, it's because we believe in the book. That's the biggest thing. Like if we didn't believe in our own project, we wouldn't be putting this is comics people, thousands of dollars
Right.
into them. To where we believe in it. And for me personally, like I don't have like a wife and kids, so I don't have to like money wise, like
Right. You're managing it yourself. You don't have
I'm
yeah.
managing
You don't
it
have a lot of things
myself.
pulling at it, right? Yeah.
Yeah, I'm managing it myself, as well as like in terms of leisure activity. Time wise, I don't really have, I love playing video games, but I don't have time to play video games anymore, to where I don't buy games anymore. So that cuts out costs there. Leisure stuff, I go to the movies. Like I like going to the movies. That's my big leisure thing. Aside from that, the only other leisure thing, comics.
Right.
Like, yeah, I pay bills and all that stuff, but the leisure money is going to the movies and making comics. Like, that's where all my leisure money goes to.
Yeah, no, it makes sense. Now, you mentioned about taking some of the future projects to, a publisher. Have you done that with any of your projects to date?
Not yet, not yet.
Okay.
And it's one of those things where like maybe I could have early on, but I wanted to somewhat establish myself as well as like get into a comfortable role of like I feel comfortable as a writer now. I feel comfortable as an editor. I feel comfortable as a collaborator to where I'm not a professional, but I feel more professional to where I feel more more able to give something to a publisher, if that makes sense.
Gotcha. Yeah. No. Yeah, I mean, I've looked at some of the requirements from Image and Dynamite, and yeah, you certainly want to. I think you wouldn't want to just throw them something that you're not happy with, right? Because
Yeah,
you
yeah.
may only have one shot, right? And so you want to make sure it's your best shot if you're going to
Oh yeah.
pitch something to them, because I'm sure they're getting a ton of pitches, daily,
Yeah.
weekly. So yeah, you definitely want to make sure it's your best, your best effort.
And
So,
and it's one of those things where like you can be happy with it, but like you said, like you want to feel like it's your best efforts to where like I'm not saying like I'm not expecting to get like admitted by Image or anything. I will submit to them, but I'm also looking at like smaller indie publishers as well. Um and just like somewhat seeing like, hey, does like my work, do I think my work holds up to their work realistically? Like delusions of grandeur out of the way. Do I think that my work holds up to some of the stuff that's currently out there with this publisher? And would it be a good fit for this publisher?
right,
Because
right,
there's some publishers where like my comedy writing or whatever, like they don't really do that sort of stuff. So I understand like they wouldn't really want my sort of thing. So you're also looking at that, at what is the best fit kind of.
right. And the horror side of it too, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Dismay Avenue, that may, there are a lot of publishers that print horror comics, so that might be an angle. Or even, one of the things that I had considered is maybe write a non-superhero,
Hmm.
story. There's been some mini series that I've read that are. There was one I read, and I think it was, I forget who published it, but it was called The Fourth Man, and it was basically like a mob, gangster, street level type
Yeah,
thing.
yeah.
But it was really enjoyable. So I think that's maybe another angle, because the superhero
It's
side
very
is so,
saturated.
yes,
Yeah, yeah.
very crowded. So maybe,
And
yeah, stand
oh
out
yeah.
in another genre.
Like that's definitely what I go with because like I love superhero comics. Like I made the Gallows Man. It's fun. It's not like the boys where I'm like Garth Ennis, based on all the books I've read, I like him as a writer. Garth Ennis hates superheroes. He hates the idea of superheroes. It's not just in the boys, you can see it in a bunch of his other work. I poke and like joke at superhero stuff here and there in the Gallows Man, but it's through love. Like I love superheroes, and you can see that in the book sort of thing. And I'm not saying like my book stacks up to the boys or anything like that. I'm just saying Garth Ennis's writing style of superheroes. Um, but yeah, that's the thing is like I like writing superheroes. I've written my superhero thing. I'd love to write superhero stuff in the future. But all the other projects I'm doing aren't superhero related. Like the two books that I'm trying to push are like just straight up comedies. They have
Right.
twists to them, but yeah, it's one of those things where I love writing superhero stuff, but at the end of the day, comedy or horror, like those are my go-to in terms of like what I absolutely love to write. I like writing anything, but those are two that I love to write and feel most comfortable in.
Okay. Yeah, so we have the link in the description, and it's pinned at the top of the chat. So definitely, you can just head over to Kickstarter and search Gallows Man, and it'll come up, or Dismay Comics. You can find Brandon's other projects as well. And then do we want to talk a little bit maybe about the rewards? So
Yeah, I can mention
yeah,
them here. Some rewards range from $1 to $199. A reward tier for like any budget, really. And if you don't really care about comics, one, it's kind of weird. You're on the comic channel, but if you don't really care about comics but just want to support in a little way, like pledging $1, pledging a couple bucks helps, because it helps have that momentum go up. And there, like Brian can attest to this because he's ran a Kickstarter. There can be those like lull days, or kind of those dead days in the Kickstarter. It's definitely the middle 2.5 weeks can
right.
definitely be that. So it helps boost that a little bit, as well as like in my case with the backer giveaways. Every 25 backers, there's a backer giveaway. It doesn't matter what the tier is. A backer is a backer sort of thing with that giveaway. So it helps get closer to that. But yeah, digital copies start at $7. Again, it's a 60+ page book. It's mini graphic novel basically. Physical copies start at $12. Copies for issue 3 of both covers, cover A and cover B, is $25, but it comes with a ton of stuff. Both books are signed, comes with a sticker set, comes with PDFs of the comics, comes with PDFs of the scripts, comes with a whole bunch of stuff. And with the scripts, you can learn from it. You can learn from my writing and be like, oh, I learned that Brandon, he sucks at writing. Or if you followed along with my stuff, hopefully you read this one and you're like, okay, I'm now on the 3rd script. He sucks a little less at writing. Hopefully you can learn that sort of stuff. But if you've never read The Gallows Man, one I recommend if you want it physically is the catch-up bundle. It's $35. It comes with Gallows Man 1, 2, 3, Tales from Town City #1, all of them signed, as well as PDFs of the comics, sticker sets, PDFs of the scripts, a whole bunch of other stuff as well. And you also go in the add-on section as well and get my horror stuff, Dismay Avenue 1 and 2. And the variant copies are there as well, and they're signed. And there's also a complete bundle, which is issue 1, 2, 3, Tales from Town City #1. It's like the other one, but it comes with both cover A and cover B for all the comics. So you get 8 comics, all signed, and all the PDF stuff I had mentioned before, and sticker sets. There's also retailer bundles.
Right.
If there's retailers out there, we usually have at least a couple comic shops back our stuff. Retailer bundle for issue 3, as well as retailer bundle for issues 1 through 3. So kind of a mix, whatever works best for your shop, as well as you don't have to be a shop. If you just want a big bundle of these books, feel free to do the retailer bundle. And there's also bigger tiers and stuff. There's a creator bundle tier, which is all the stuff I mentioned, plus a Zoom consultation with me, a script consultation, where we break down a script that you submit earlier in advance, and I make notes and stuff, and we spend, it says 2 hours. We usually go over the 2 hours. I'm not like a stickler to like, once we hit the 2 hours, I end the call. It's like, no. Let's make sure we cover everything. So that's a good value for writers out there. There's also original art bundles.
Yeah, I see that. Yeah.
With these, it's all the stuff I mentioned. It's all the comics. It's all the variants, all signed. The script consultation, all that sort of stuff, all the PDFs, all that sort of stuff, and original piece of art. And there's 2 different ones. There's this one, which is, let me do this. I'll have to do a scanning shot. But this one is Gallows Man and Newsboy sporting I Heart Town City shirts. And the heart is Noose. So I Heart Town City shirt. And this is like it's not cardstock, but it's a pretty heavy Bristol paper. And it also has the preliminary sketch, not on the back. The preliminary sketch is a separate piece of paper. It's just in here. Preliminary sketch comes with it as well. And these are done by Thomas Tikas. He's the original cover artist of the Gallows Man. And I mentioned these because these are like rare in terms of original art dealing with the Gallows Man. Because Helen, the interior artist, she does all digital.
Right.
Rick Alves, the variant cover artist, he does all digital. Thomas is the only one that does traditional pencils and inks and then scans it in and does coloring. I have those covers, issues 1 through 4. I will almost never sell those in my life.
Right,
Those are like, those are my babies sort of thing. But I made sure to commission him to do a few original pieces so that people can get original art, original Gallows Man art from the main cover artist. And they're both signed. There's that one. And then this one, I love both of them, but I really like this one. It's Gallows Man and Newsboy about to enact their brand of justice sort of thing.
Yeah, those are great.
It's about to be a bad day for him. Thomas's line work, like my crappy webcam doesn't do it justice.
His inks, there's definitely a lot of detail there.
Yeah, his inks are just like insane. The attention to detail.
Yeah, that's unusual, right? Because a lot of artists today work digitally, right? I mean, it's easy, if you're working with somebody, that you maybe overseas or whatever, you can email back and forth or put them on Google Drive, Dropbox, a lot of different ways that you can do it. But it's very rare that they're actually creating, physical, drawings these days. A lot of it's done digitally. So,
well, it's like what you said, like especially with modern comic books. Original art is becoming more and more rare. I'm not saying like, hey, everyone get into buying original art. I buy original comic art because I just love to do it. I've enjoyed art. My mom was an art teacher growing up, so I was just immersed in the appreciation of art. I draw stick figures. I suck at actually like producing that form of art, but I admire it. I love it a lot. But yeah, it's becoming more and more rare to find original comic art, like original modern comic art, because digital is like in terms of time and stress, digital art is like easier. Digital art is a great thing, but you do lose original pieces.
Right.
So when it's there, it's always something awesome. And like Brian said, original comic art is a rarity nowadays.
Yeah, no, it's definitely, I had talked to my artist too and see, and he was doing everything digitally, even if he could do a panel or two, on pencil so that I had some original art. Cause I think that is, there's a certain audience that really enjoys, collecting, and pairing it up with the actual published comic, the finished product. So, it's definitely interesting now in the digital world where you don't really have a lot of that. So,
what's amazing is one of the 2 books that I'm working on that I'll try to get to publishers. One of those, the artist does traditional pencils and inks, and this is the first comic. With any comic, if someone does traditional pencils and inks, I'm going to try to buy the art. Like, I bought all the pages of the first issue. It's in its own binder sort of thing. So it's one of those things where like original art is great for collectors out there as well as us as creators. It's like, holy crap! Like I have the original art of my original comic sort of thing.
Right.
It's really cool to have.
Yeah, no, definitely, I agree. And if anybody in the chat, and thanks to everybody who joined us tonight, who's joined us. If you have any questions for Brandon, just put them in the chat, and we can answer a couple. But I have another one for you because going through Kickstarter and just looking at some of the past projects and current projects. One of the things that I noticed, two things that I noticed. One, I was surprised at the amount of publishing companies, well-known publishing companies that use Kickstarter. I saw projects from Dynamite and
Boom.
We mentioned even Todd McFarlane, in Image. So I was surprised at some of the big bigger publishers using Kickstarter as an avenue to get a project, funded. But the other thing I noticed too, there was a lot of, good girl, bad girl projects, right? Scantily clad women
Yeah.
and a lot of those projects are funded by like, 4 or 5, 600%. And so, in the back of my mind, I was thinking, well, maybe if I put together an art book of scantily clad, a theme, maybe it's a holiday or a Halloween or something,
If you
maybe
have it
that's
themed,
something,
that'll be good.
that you could fund, that you could help bring in some additional money to help
Oh yeah,
fund
yeah.
some of your other projects. So I wanted to ask you that is if you ever thought of maybe, I don't want to call it a cash grab, but I guess it kind of is like, you're still producing original art but have you ever thought of a project? Well, maybe if I just kind of threw something, not throw it together, but obviously put something out there that would maybe gain more popularity or money compared to, a superhero book.
Oh yeah, yeah. Like I've definitely thought about it and considered it, and I don't like frown on anyone doing any of these trends because you had mentioned that's one of the trends with Kickstarter. There's multiple I've seen. A big thing on Kickstarter can be horror, which that's not really a trend. You can see that
Right.
anywhere, but more specifically, Cthulhu. Cthulhu is strangely a big trend on Kickstarter where usually Cthulhu related stuff does pretty good. Another one is like you said, scantily clad women, or sometimes covers where it's half naked or naked.
Right.
Um,
Right.
uh, and there's a couple other like big random what we see as random trends, but they do well on Kickstarter. I have considered those. At the end of the day, like I want I would love to get to the place, this will be years down the road, where making comics is just like half my income. Like that's the dream of like, hey, like half my income comes from making comics and I'm also working part-time sort of thing. Like that's right. Cause I'm not married. I don't have wife and kids. So my cost of living is a lot further down sort of thing.
Right. Right.
Uh,
Sure.
so that's like the semi-realistic dream for like years down the road sort of thing. That would be good. But there's that, but I also just like producing the art that I want to make sort of thing. Like I don't have like I mentioned before, the money that produces the comic, it's my own money. Like I hire an artist, have the interiors, have the comic done before the Kickstarter sort of thing. Um, to where it's I don't have any higher ups over me. I am doing this because I love the art of it. To where I want to do exactly what I want to do. Like what you see in my book is exactly how I saw it. There's no big company overlooking me and saying, actually, don't have this page, or actually put this ad in this page, or actually put this in the middle, or whatever it may be.
Right.
It's each of these like these are floppies, these are comics, but they are my art. Like like in terms of writing, I write these. In terms of the artist, like these are the guys that are like putting it to page sort of things in terms of the art. But this is my expression of art. Um, uh, if income comes from it one day, that's great. If it doesn't, I'm still going to be doing this stuff
Right.
because it's my outlet. Like it's my creative outlet to where I value the art, my production of the art, what I put out there, more than uh, uh, I'm not saying those are cash grabs by any means. Like anyone can put out whatever they want to do, but what I do, I don't want it to be that thing in the middle where it's like, okay, he made this, and then he made this, and it's like it doesn't have as much soul to it. And then he made this. Like I want to put my all into each thing. Um, so at the end of the day, I mentioned that's my personal thing. I have no problems or qualms with people if they want to make like the women sketchbooks or anything like that, or if they want to follow some Kickstarter trends or whatever, that's perfect. Like you're doing great. Just me personally as a creative, like we all have our personal ideas of who we are as a creative. Me personally as a creative, I just want to produce my vision of the art, sort of thing.
Gotcha. Yeah, no, it kind of, looking through, like I said, looking through the Kickstarter different campaigns, you, like you said, you start to notice trends, or kind of similar projects that are having success, and so that kind of made me think, well, is there an avenue there where maybe if you jump on a trend and maybe produce something that has bigger success, that then allows you to really work on things that maybe you want to, that maybe not everybody, it's not everybody's thing. So,
and also I'll also say with following Kickstarter trends or whatever, there can be like amazing story, and there can be like heart into it from the creatives. Like an example I saw of that, I think it was a year ago, maybe a year and a half ago. Pat Chan, he's a big Kickstarter creator in terms of comics on Kickstarter. He had a book, I think it was called like something. It was like Cthulhu hired me to make a Kickstarter or something. It was a better title, but within the title and within the book, he incorporated all of the trends within his story.
I got you.
Incorporated Cthulhu. He incorporated scantily clad women. He incorporated this, that, all of the stuff, and he made a good story out of it. So at the end of the day, like if you can make great art from it, or continue in making future great art, do what you got to do.
Nate's Hall Yeah Comics. Nate has a question. What writers are your favorites in the two genres that you mentioned, comedy or horror? Or what books do you see your biggest influence in the two?
So regarding comics, because I also have like movie inspirations as well in terms of writers. In terms of comics, Matt Fraction is a big one in terms of comedy. Matt Fraction is great at comedy. His Hawkeye run was great at blending action, drama, seriousness with comedy. Matt Fraction's one. Nick Spencer, I'm pretty sure it's Nick Spencer. Nick Spencer, if he's the guy that did Captain America, the Secret Empire, if Nick Spencer was the guy that did that, that's who I'm talking about. Maybe it was Jason Aaron. I could be wrong. Someone in the chat, let me know. Whoever did that book, he has done some comedy stuff in the past. Like he did some comedy stuff for Image. Or not just Image. He did Superior Foes of Spider-Man, which follows like C and D list villains like Boomerang and like a few others.
Right.
That is funny. It's a funny like C D list villain book that he did a great job on. I love that series. He also did a series for Image called The Fix, which in terms of comics is one of the funniest comics I've read.
The Fix.
The Fix. It's Nick Spencer or Jason Aaron. All you gotta do is look up The Fix, and then one of those names will pop up. But that book is really funny. The downside with that is he got to issue 12, and by that point, he was doing big stuff for Marvel. He was getting into Secret Empire and stuff to where he had to put that series on hiatus, The Fix. And I'm saddened by that. I'm happy for his success. Like he's had great success since then, but The Fix was such a funny book, and the way it ended at issue 12 is so funny, but also like, oh crap, we're about to get into some stuff. Because The Fix, people just look up the synopsis for it. It's on Image. It feels very much like kind of a Miami Vice. It follows two kind of crooked cops. They kind of smuggle drugs in. And also they have to smuggle it in through the airport. And there's a TSA dog that one of them is terrified of named Pretzels. And you find out it's a little like tiny dog. It's not this big German Shepherd or whatever.
Yeah, it looks like it looks like it's a Basset Hound. Yeah, or like a hound. Yeah.
Okay,
it is
Nick Spencer. Thank you. He's done some funny stuff. I highly recommend checking his stuff out. There's multiple other comic horror or comic comedy stuff. I'm blanking on some of those, but those are some that come to mind. In terms of movies with comedy, he's a 50-50 guy with some people, but Kevin Smith is a funny guy. The Clerks movies, I really enjoy the Clerks movies. Chasing Amy is a great movie, comedy as well as drama. It's ahead of its time as well, Chasing Amy. Let's see, Tusk. Tusk is one that like both comedy and horror is like just insane, but it's a very fun movie. So Kevin Smith's an inspiration. Another inspiration for comedy is Norm Macdonald. He's one of my favorite comedians. He was and is one of my favorite
Yeah,
comedians. He passed a few
was,
years ago, but Norm Macdonald's like comedy, it's hilarious. Also, for people out there, if you've seen his stand-up and you haven't seen this, he has like a tape. One of his records is like essentially radio plays where he does these skits kind of. Look up Norm Macdonald Fantastic Four. It's a very funny skit where it follows the Fantastic Four and the naming of each of them. It's like, and Mr. Fantastic's the one that names them. He's like, you'll be called Human Torch, Johnny, because you light up, and it's like, oh, that's great. And it's like, you'll be called Invisible Woman because you're a woman and you turn invisible. And you'll be called The Thing, Ben. And Ben's going, what the heck? But he moves on. He's like, and I'll be Mr. Fantastic. And it's like, what? Why are you calling yourself Mr. Fantastic? And it just spirals from it's
Right.
very funny.
I haven't heard that. I'll have to listen to it. Norm was I liked him on, and if you haven't seen it, you can find it on YouTube or through SNL. Was his weekend updates?
Yes,
And
the weekend
he was
update
short.
is hilarious.
Yeah.
People, you can look up like YouTube compilations of his weekend update stuff.
Yeah, and he was short lived because it didn't go over well. But that's the type of humor that I enjoy. That kind of dry, sarcastic, type of and yeah, it didn't hit for everybody, but I found him very funny.
He's funny, but those are some of my comedy influences. There's a bunch more. I'd really have to think hard about it. Horror ranges like regarding comics. Again, like I was born in 1997, so I didn't grow up in like the heyday of like
The slasher,
right? Yeah, like the slasher. But I grew to love that sort of stuff. But in terms of comics, the horror that was introduced, yeah. Well, actually, another reason they didn't like Norm, a big reason of why they kicked him off, was all the OJ jokes he was telling. They've talked about that before. Hey, Tate. But horror wise, Scott Snyder's Witches was actually one of the first big horror books I picked up regarding comics. I was like, oh snap, like this is really good. And then I like dived into a whole bunch of horror stuff, older horror stuff as well. But regarding horror, ton of influences from movies. Like I could go on for days talking about movies and horror movies I like. Like I love The Descent. The Descent is top 10 personal horror movies. I love that. I am not a claustrophobic person, but that movie brings that in me. Like I feel claustrophobic watching it. And just John Carpenter's The Thing is definitely up there for me. There's just a mix of stuff. There's a lot of good horror as well today. I know some people will be like, horror, it's back in the day. That's when horror was the best and stuff. Dude, it was great and amazing back then. It is great and amazing today. If anyone is looking for good horror recommendations and they think, oh, it's only the past, I'll DM me. I'll send you some. There are some great horror movies today.
Yeah, no, definitely the genre is a little bit, the back in the 80s, and it was more slasher, just the group of kids, getting chased, with the machete wielding, psycho. But it's more suspenseful now. More, it's a little bit more psychological than back in the day where it was just teenagers getting chased.
Oh yeah, and today you can still find like kind of those 80s feel of horror sort of thing. Like, and a lot of that comes in indie horror. One I recommend for people that just want like it's horror, but it's not scary horror. Psycho Gorman. It came out a few years ago. It's like it's on Shutter. If you have a Shutter account, it's on there, or you can go to Walmart and buy it for like $5-10 sort of thing. It is like over the top, like the scary bad guy villains and stuff look like Power Rangers villains and stuff like that. It's fun. It's dumb. Like there's some stuff that can call back to the 80s and stuff like that that are still being made today. Yes. Psycho Gorman's great.
Yeah, I don't think I've seen that. I'm not a big horror guy, but I watched all the Friday the 13th, Nightmare on Elm Street, all the 80s slasher stuff. But
oh yeah, I was talking with Tate last night and a few other people. Chucky, the Chucky franchise is one of those horror franchises that like still continues to go and still holds up. Like there's a couple of misses here and there, like Cult of Chucky sort of stuff, but like from Child's Play all the way to the current Chucky series, it's like steady. I'm not saying Chucky is my favorite horror series or horror franchise, but it's one that I always go to of like, no, you can keep it going for 40 years and it still be great, still reinvented and stuff.
yeah, that's one I saw the first couple, but I haven't seen any of the recent stuff. But
it compared to Child's Play 1 and 2, if you watch Child's Play 1 and 2 and then you jumped into recent stuff, you'd be like, what the hell is going on? Because Child's Play 1 and 2 are very much like horror movies. They're great horror movies, but they are horror movies. As it goes on, it just gets more and more insane, but it's so great.
We got to vote for Bride of Chucky.
Yes, Bride of Chucky's great.
So, as we mentioned, link is pinned in the chat for the Brandon's Kickstarter for Gallows Man 3. It's in the description, as well as all of his links, his link tree for all of his links on social media. And I know Christina's been dropping them as well. So,
thank you, Christina.
Please definitely go back it.
And with that comic, like you can get all 3 issues of Gallows Man.
Yeah, you can get caught up.
Town City #1, which is the anthology that goes in it. And if you want to check out my horror stuff, we were talking about horror stuff. I have made horror comics, horror anthologies. You can pick up either issue or you can pick up both, all self-contained. This one is a 40-page horror. This one is 4 different stories, but it's 60 plus pages. Yeah, and there's also variant covers. So if you're like, oh, I'd rather have this cover than that cover, you can get that. And it's also no price difference with the cover A and cover B. So yeah, just whatever you prefer.
That was Dismay Avenue. I backed that. I have copies. Very good. Read them. I remember the story that stood out to me was and I don't remember the name of it, but it's the movie theater.
Yeah. This one right here. It's I of all of the stories in both issues so far, it's probably my favorite because one, it's a 40-page story. Like there's a lot you can dive into, but also another reason it might be a favorite of mine is, and I've told it before, the first like 15 pages are like beat for beat of a date night I actually had. It's beat for beat of a date night I had, and then the story's like, what if it went this psychological horror route sort of thing. So okay. Yeah, thank you.
So based on some real life.
Oh yeah. Yeah, looking forward to it all.
Yeah. So where else are you going to be? I know when the Kickstarter campaign is live, you got to get eyeballs on it. You got to promote as much as possible. Yeah. So I know we were talking backstage. You've got a bunch of different appearances coming up, right?
Yeah. Let me get the calendar real quick. I got a comedically big calendar. Hold on.
Are you one of my favorites that interviews creators and indie comic book artists is K-pop. So are you sitting down with Katie?
I believe October 3rd. Let me see if
Okay.
I'm
All right. Great.
Yes, October 3rd. I'll be talking with Katie. I love being on her show. She's like, all of you guys are extremely supportive. She is like not just me, but I mean day one of like helping indie
Oh yeah.
creators and stuff. Like she's been doing it, myself as well as all indie creators out there. We're very thankful for K-pop and what she does with kicking it with K-pop and uh, uh, Fartist feature and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah. No,
very
she's,
thankful.
you know, it's amazing the amount of people that she has on, and
Oh yeah.
you know, people that I may have never come across, but I see them, and she's chatting with them for for hours, and it's just great. She's very natural at it, and
Oh yeah,
so
yeah.
people have come to me, new people that I maybe have not talked about before, and I always recommend them. If they have a project, I said you can certainly come on, and hang out with me, but you need to go talk to K-pop.
Yes, yes. Because
Because
she. I mean, like all of you guys have open doors, but she is right there for
well,
any
yeah,
indie
I just
creator.
think she's the one of the best at it. So
Yes, yeah.
so I'm certainly more than happy to have anybody on and highlight what they're doing. But for me, I'm like, you need to go talk to K-pop, because I think it starts there, right? And then
As well as like not only like a creator myself, but as a fan of comics and a fan of indie comics and wanted to support people, and as well as like discover people, because a lot of times like people are discovering us, we're discovering them, sort of thing. Like I just have discovered great talent through Kickstarter, to where like one of the books last week, or not last week, last year, was a horror book, and I bought one of the original pages because it was like, this is amazing. So
right.
so it's one of those things where like people discover us, we can also discover other people, sort of thing.
Sure. Yeah. Support one another, right? Yeah.
Oh yeah, yeah.
So you said you were going to grab the calendar. What do
Yes,
you
I've
got
got
next?
the
Oh
comedically
wow. All right. We
large
got the big
calendar.
calendar.
Distance Nerding, I'll be on with them tomorrow, 8 p.m. Central Standard Time. Two Geeks and a Microphone. That actually, scratch those. Those are things, but they're not live. They'll be pre-recorded, and I'll
Okay.
be sure to post them. Those will be Saturday. I'm recording with those guys, but whenever it does get posted, I'll put it in my socials so people can check that out. Indie Comics Relay. That's also another great indie platform I recommend to indie creators. Keith Gleason, Johnny C. Harry, he's a new addition like the past year and a half, but Harry's hilarious. Indie Comics Relay, great place to go for promoting your book and talking about your book, as well as just having a good conversation. All of those guys are indie creators themselves. They make comics, and they're great. Let's see, Hall, yeah, I'm going to be on with them the 25th. So next Wednesday, I'll be
Okay.
on with them 6 p.m. Aussieverse, it's in the name, Australian. I didn't realize the time differences between U.S. and Australia. I will be on with them. I'm not sure what it will be Australian time. U.S. time on the 26th, it'll be 6 a.m. So 6
You get
a.m.
up
I'll be
early.
on with them. Yeah, for them it's like 8 p.m. or something like that. It's wild seeing that difference. There's also a bunch others, but like I mentioned, K-pop, I'll be on with her October 3rd.
Okay.
And I'll be on with other people as well. If people want to see what shows I'll be on, follow my social media stuff. I always post at least the day of if I'm going to be on someone's show. So you can check that out.
All right. Good. Yeah. Yeah. Definitely. If you follow Instagram, right? I know you, and you've got Instagram. Why am I drawing a blank on what they call it? What it's like creator. What do they call it on Instagram? It's a chat group, but there's some other name for it.
Wait, are you talking about? I might not be in that chat group. I'm in a few chat groups.
No,
I'm in.
you have a channel. Don't you have a channel on Instagram?
Yeah. The broadcast channels. Yeah, I forgot about that. So
Yeah. So
if you want to, because sometimes Instagram as well as Facebook, you might not see it in your feed. But if you want to directly see my stuff, go to my Instagram page, follow the broadcast channel. That way you'll get a little direct message of like, hey, here's the new update sort of thing.
right, any of the new updates,
Yeah. And so Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, Dismay Comics on all those. You can follow that. I'm also on YouTube, Dismay Comics. I do a podcast with my buddy. We're shooting the breeze half the time. Like this past time, we were talking about pitch ideas as well as a couple issues we've had with Star Wars fans, just various stuff. We shoot the breeze. Sometimes we're pitching stuff. Sometimes we're going into deep philosophical conversation. It's random stuff. We're two novice comic writers that just can't stop yapping. So you can check that out. And also, you don't have to check out the podcast. Check out at least the clips, though. I have Dismay Comics podcast clips. Those are very funny. They're usually 1 to 2 minutes long. There's some funny Todd McFarlane Spawn HBO intro stuff that you can check out where we kind of parody Todd's intros from the HBO show.
Okay.
There's some Matrix stuff, a mix of stuff. So I recommend if you check out that stuff, at least check out the clips.
But definitely go check out the Kickstarter, back the Kickstarter, and check Brandon out, on
this is to prove that I've done it. This is to prove that I've printed books before. We haven't printed issue 3 yet, but we will. It's completely done. But this is to prove that I've printed books before. Tales from Town City #1. Also, this is no one's copies going out. These are my own copies. So if I'm bending it or anything, you're good. Dismay Avenue #2, Gallows Man 2, Gallows Man 1, Dismay Avenue #1. There's also variant covers for all these. And the variant covers aren't a different price. There's a cover A, cover B. It's more so you can make a choice of, I'd like this one instead of that one.
Yeah, no, it's interesting. Having a couple different variant covers. Sometimes a cover just hits with people, and then they they go for it. So yeah, it's good to have, and it's nice that I found that you were able to work with some different artists. You have a main artist for the interiors, but then you can work with multiple artists for the variant covers, which is a nice thing to kind of see their interpretation of your characters, or so that's fun to do.
Oh yeah, and I make sure, like, especially with Gallows Man, it is varied. Like, this is issue 1. You have the main cover art. Again, sorry for the crappy webcam. People, go to the Kickstarter. You can see better images. There's the variant cover from Rick, and same thing with issue 2 and with any of my comics. There is the main cover of issue 2, cover B of issue 3. And I promise the colors are good. They look good. My webcam just sucks. I promise.
Yeah, no, you use I just lost their name. The printing company is
Comics Wellspring. I use for some of my stuff. I used them for Tales from Town City as well as both issues of Dismay Avenue. With Gallows Man, I actually use a company out of New York called Image Now by Mahar. They do great books, and since it is such a chunky book,
right,
they're able to do better unit costs than Comics Wellspring, and
okay, makes sense.
It's the same quality as Comics Wellspring. Also, with the chunkier books, I kind of like Image Now's quality better, because I want it to feel very good, but I also want it to feel like a comic, to where, hey, it's called a floppy. It does flop a little bit.
Right, yeah.
And I think Image Now does that pretty good.
All right, good. So anything else you want to mention before we wrap up?
Just check out the Kickstarter, check out the trailer, check out the campaign page. There's 6 preview pages of issue 3, 7 preview pages of issue 1 at the bottom. Gives you a good feel of the book. And also, that's not giving like a ton where it's like, well, I already read the book. Again, each issue is 52 plus pages. Issue 1 and 2, 52 plus pages. Issue 3, 60 plus pages. So a lot of bang for your buck. It's a fun, good time. Yeah, just check it out and make your decision of whether you want to back it or not. If you can't support it financially, sharing it out always helps. So and it costs you nothing. Just a minute or two of your time. It's very helpful. So, and thank you for everyone that has been doing that, sharing it out. Thank you for Christina for like in almost all the chats I'm in, she posts the link and stuff. Thank you for that. Just thank you everyone that supported the book so far. We're very close to the second stretch goal, and the second stretch goal, every backer will get a 5-page digital comic of a story we've done from 4 Tales from Town City. That it'll probably be a year or two before we publish, because Tales from Town City is kind of on the back burner right now because of all the other stuff I have going on in terms of books. But since we have it done, I want it to be accessible to you guys, because it's a very funny story, fits within the world of the Gallows Man. It fits in issue 2 of the Gallows Man. So that's what we're going for right now. Once we hit the second stretch goal, everyone will be able to read that story. And then we have stretch goals going forward from there. But yeah, again, every bit helps. And thank you for everyone that has supported so far.
Yeah. No, thanks everybody for being here tonight. And Brandon, thank you so much for coming on. Happy to, highlight the project, and, good luck, with the rest of it. I mean, stretch goal 2 is, you're closing in on that. So, and still got
getting there. Yeah.
3 weeks to go. So, continued success with it. And what we'll do is we'll run the trailer again, and then we'll say goodnight. But we'll say goodnight and then run the trailer and go from there. So, thanks again for being on.
Thanks for having me. Good night, everyone.
Night. Thanks for everybody for being here.
Back and better than ever, it's the Gallows Man. Witness action, humor, grotesque violence, and everything in between as the Gallows Man and his team try to stop the Nazi threat that has infiltrated their city. My producers are saying it's Adam West Batman meets Inglourious Basterds. Whatever the hell that means. Well, what are you waiting for? Help support this series by backing the Gallows Man numbers 1 through 3 over on Kickstarter today. There, I did the ad. Will you let me go now? Okay, I'll say the stupid stuff. Baby, get back. Have you ever seen a dead body? No cap, these chicken nuggies be bussin', gang. Would you like to see a dead body? Morpheus, Dorpheus, Orpheus, go eat some walruses. Someone's getting a visit from the BB monster. There, I said it all. When will you let me